So the first thing I invite all of us to do is to close our eyes and feel into connecting all together by imagining, sensing, feeling or visualizing all of us in this moment holding each other's hands. And in holding each other's hands, we're going to just send an energetic communication of acknowledgement to those who are grieving. We see your pain. We acknowledge your loss. We acknowledge your grief. We see you. We acknowledge your sadness. I hear for you. You have a family. You have a group of old souls that are supporting you in this moment. And we have a message that every time you are feeling grief, the invitation is that you feel us around you, holding hands, giving a gentle hug, acknowledging you, supporting you, and loving you, and reminding you to allow yourself to feel the grief and know that as each day goes by, we will continue loving you and holding you little. And you can think of that person with a memory where you're not reduced to tears and devastation. Eventually you will get to that place where your heart will be bursting with joy at having had the opportunity to create such precious moments and memories together. And feeling that love and support, we will continue holding hands together and loving one another as we receive the message from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. This entire month, the subject started last week, this entire series, talking about the planet. Now we get into something a little more esoteric, and then next week, a little more personal. These are things that I have told you in passing before, in other channels, perhaps with other subjects. We did a channel regarding past lives, and in that we discussed some of the things I'm going to tell you today, but not all of them. We're going to talk about the timing of your incarnations. Yes, there is. We discussed at one time before the actual process of your coming and going. This has been a subject of so much interest to so many of you. Until we get to that place that is very non-linear and very unhuman-like, when we as a group and choose what you're going to do next, and some of it is seemingly what you would never choose if you were here. That tells you what the mind of God is like. It tells you what happens on the other side of the veil that you don't have here. It tells you who you really are when you're not here. Again, dear ones, when you're on the other side of the veil, there is a mastery that occurs that is dynamically related to your lives on the planet. And that has to do with timing. What happens here in this lifetime will often determine the timing of the next. So let me explain. You come into the planet and you live many lives, And at some point in time, many of you start to awaken, and this is simply because you have spent so much time on the planet cumulatively that it starts to then mature you when you get back. So indeed, there are things you remember very vividly from lifetime to lifetime. And part of that remembrance, perhaps, is being here and knowing what to expect. When you first arrive, you don't know what to expect. You spend several lifetimes learning how Earth works. You do. And as you then come back and you come back and you come back, what you carry in with you is almost like a remembrance of being human. Not the particulars, not the gender, not really. But you have a comfortable spot of being human, whereas the first time you arrived, you had to get used to it. The second time, a little more. And the third time, begin to say, oh, figuratively, not in your mind as a human. But that's what you see as you look backwards and you see these lives and what they meant. But now I'm talking to old souls. In general, I'm talking to those who have been here over and over and over and over. So let's say, as an awakening old soul, you have made some choices in this life. And they're choices that you never made in other lives. They're unusual. Perhaps they go even against your culture. Perhaps you have awakened and stepped out of the things that your parents told you should be in. Perhaps that your friends also looked the other way as you stepped out into that which is a belief system which you know carries more love and compassion and understanding and maturity and enlightenment than where you were before. And if it did, that puts you perhaps in a place where your life changes dramatically. Perhaps it even ripped you out of what you learned to do or did half your life or most of your life, and you find yourself now doing something completely different. I speak of my partner. That's exactly what happened to him. He did the reverse of what his family wanted, the reverse of what his friends wanted, even those in his business wanted. And he turned his back figuratively on an old energy where most of them were, and walked into a place where they almost all of them, looked the other way. To such a degree that he had to learn that they had passed on, months after they had passed on. That's how removed they were, by choice, from his choice. And many of you happens to you. And you go to the other side when you pass over, as they say. And on the other side, can you see how that might change what you do next? Now, pay attention, because this violates the rules of everything you've been told about the timing of reincarnation. Let's say at that moment that you move to the other side of the veil and you're in that beautiful soul energy and you look back upon the planet, and let's say you see something that's happening and you realize that in 20 years you're supposed to be part of it. Would that affect how quickly you reincarnate? And the answer is yes. And you come back in less than 3 months. Now, think about that. You have been told perhaps that reincarnation does not happen that quickly. This time it did, because could possibly happen in 20 years if the earth kept going the way it was. No one can tell you what's going to happen. But the trends are there. So we've told you that before. And so in you come again to grow up. So by the time you're 20, 21, 22, you can firmly be part of something. What if that something was a new government? What if that something was new healing modalities that you were perfectly fit for? Think about that. Now, let's do the reverse. Let's say that you pass over as an old soul, and you are there looking at what's going on, and you realize that there is a partnership that you had enjoyed. all of your life or some of your life, but it was profound. It was an old soul partnership. And at some level, you're speaking, we will wait until that partner also transitions. And we will come in so that we are in the same kind of an age area, so we will rekindle that partnership. And we'll put ourselves in the same area, so it is likely we'll find one another and continue where we left off. Whoa. And what if that takes 10 years? 5 years? You have just affected the timing of your reincarnation. You have no hurry. Dear ones, the timing of incarnation is almost completely and totally set by what happens to you now in this lifetime. And it didn't used to. In an older energy, it was more of a pattern. And you came in more of a pattern, certain number of years or months, more of a pattern, but not now. Has affected even the things of the Akash. Even the things that you might not think were affected. They're more in your control than you know. And that is the best news I could ever bring you. A control of compassion and love for you. You now choose to continue your experiences so that you can help this planet the most. In the past, it was to continue experiences so you could help yourself the most and have different experiences so you karmically could be prepared for anything. And now it's a bit different. You are in love with this planet, and I am in love with you. Dear ones, for what you do, for what you're going through, for what you will do, on the future that we see on this planet that is light and bright, more so than you even think. I'm in Kryon in love with humanity. I've said that. Believe it. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
So, make yourself comfortable where you are sitting now, as relaxed as you can. Take a slow, gentle, loving breath, feeling it in your entire body, and allowing yourself to relax even more into the space you are creating for yourself for this first day of teachings, of the 12 layers of DNA. That is the grounding group of today's teachings and study and energy. Take another breath and create for yourself a beautiful, loving, energetic foundation so you can absorb, assimilate more, integrate more, understand more of what you are going to learn, what you are going to feel, of how much more you are, how multidimensional being you are, how much you can expand your awareness and your consciousness and your knowledge, your understandings of how your multidimensionality really is. Take another deep breath and allow yourself to go even deeper, moving closer into that space of timelessness, of beingness, of endless beauty and joy, of appreciation and gratitude, of compassion and love, of love beyond time and space, beyond any measure. that lives within you and with you and guides you from your soul, from your Merkaba. Breathe and allow yourself to be as fully as you possibly can be in this multidimensional experience of the heart, of the energy, and also through the mind. Breathe. And as you set now for yourself a beautiful space, open your heart even more to that space of no beginning and no end. As you are receiving the love, the guidance, and the teachings from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. Rather than a channeling, indeed, it's a short message, perhaps even a blessing. But it must start this way. The information that you will receive today, the next class, and the next class. Probably the most esoteric thing we have ever given you in an academic way. Organized, studyable, but more than that. All of the names hide other things, dear ones, as you will see. The Hebrew is used in respect. Respect for those who put together the idea that there is one God and spread that idea so completely that today this is how the planet sees. You wonder about old energy and old concepts and old ideas and perceptions. Think of a time, dear one, when there were many gods all through this planet. There was no agreement that perhaps there was a creator. Indeed, you have come so far in consciousness from those days. Project for a moment where you'll go in the future from there. Perhaps you will come to the realization that that one God, that one creator, resides somehow in every particle that exists. And that means you. Because you are just filled with not only just particles, but complex biology. You already know that this earth is made up of patterns and shapes and sizes and pieces and parts. And some of you are gleaning the fact that in all things, from a tree to dirt, there is a symmetry. And some are saying that symmetry is the creator. The indigenous have always felt this way, saying that everywhere you look, you see the handiwork, not of just the creator, but the creator is in the handiwork. That the dirt of the earth contains the wisdom of the ancients. What if that also is projected onto your DNA? That DNA structure contains inside of it not only that which is you, but perhaps that which is divine. What if in that DNA there was more than chemistry? The chemistry indeed is what you study a little today and more. The chemistry is the framework that is needed for the rest. But in all of this framework, dear ones, over 3 billion chemical parts of that framework, in every single molecule of DNA in that framework, that's only a piece of the framework. For those who would study it, they would say where there may be more than 3 billion chemicals in one molecule of DNA, but less than 5% of them actually do something chemically. And that leads you to ask, what are the rest doing? It's not scientific evidence, but it leads the way to connect the dots. What if there was information upon information upon information? What if, because it carries that which is your soul imprint as well, that every single human being within their DNA has a record of everything that existed for them in every single lifetime, in every single planet? Indeed. Would you be interested? This is the esoteric study of the mastery within. This is a study that opens the door to allow you to see perhaps something bigger than you thought. Again, it's not scientific. It's esoteric, and we say that. But we invite you to feel the truth and the energies and the magnificence of what could be. That is what the esoterics are to you. And that is why we present them in this way. There's been a long distance of time for you since the introduction of this material to my partner and the publishing of the book from my partner to now. That is not an accident. For whereas it was an academic study in a book, now it becomes more alive for you. This is study 1 of 4. But you might say it's study 1 of 1,000,000, because the subject is vast and the information about what to discover will never end. Let the class begin. And so it is.
Well, welcome back from the break, everyone. We are now moving into the final section of our first day of teachings. And for this part, what I would like to do instead of a meditation is give you affirmations, speaking directly to each layer of DNA. And then we will move into the Kryon channel. So I invite you to close your eyes. And you may even wish to place a hand on your heart center. Dear Layer 1, my biological layer, the cells of my body hold the templates and blueprints of perfect health. I am filled with vitality, and I am youthing every day. Dear Layer 2, my life lessons. My entire entourage is with me now, guiding me through my life lessons. I am a champion of duality in my everyday life. Dear Layer 3, Ascension and Activation. I am filled with joy and give permission to connect even deeper with my inner child. My inner child is precious and active in my life. I bring joy to others. And I invite you to take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, slowly place your hands back onto your lap. And from this energetic posture, we invite the loving messages from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. This particular channeling is the final channeling of day 1 of a class. I told my partner that all channelings that are notated as channelings, and it's easy to know, all of them are to be free. And that they would reside in a place where even though there would be many who would never have taken the class, they would hear the channelings. And because of this, some of the things that I speak of now may be out of context, because this particular message comes at the end of a long time coming. A teaching that is now succinctly connected with the experiences of life. The teaching is around the 12 layers of DNA, one of the books that has been written by my partner, myself, as an exposure to the esoteric mastery within every single human being. I said in an earlier channel that it has taken a while before this academia would then come to the place where it could be explained better with the examples of life that has occurred since the shift of 2012, and be in a way that is a lot more understandable to many. And that is the class that has just concluded before this channeling. So this is mainly for those who went through the class. Dear ones, is it possible that that which is inside you that has been called DNA is really a clearinghouse for so many things that you had no idea of? And we can jump to some of the most outlandish ones if you want to, or just land perhaps on the ones you know. Let's just go to the outlandish ones. Some of you have lost loved ones. Perhaps a mother or father or a partner. And in the grief process, over years, you learn there are certain things that still occur. You'll have a dream. We not only can sense them, but smell them. Because every single human being has an essence, a smell of their own. You might see, perhaps, that it occurs in a closet with their clothes. And yet you would smell them, or you might even hear their voice. And I am asking you, where did that come from? Now, there are those that say, well, it comes from your brain, actually, because your brain remembers things, and it has a very ability to do this and that. And I'll tell you, dear ones, that may be where you remember it. That's where it's delivered, but it's stored in your DNA. The DNA is a delivery system. It is a receiving system and a storage system that is astonishing. The amount of chemistry in your DNA is amazing. And we've said it before, that which has been identified by the Human Genome Project, 3 billion chemistry parts in one molecule of DNA, is an astonishing number. But more than that, to think that less than 5% makes the genes, again, the question I gave you before, what does the rest of it do? The answer, it's a storage system. More than a storage system, it's a remembrance system. More than even that, it's a system of your soul. The things that DNA can store are past this lifetime. Wait a minute, Kryon. Wait, how is that even possible? Because you're born with different parents and a different DNA and all. And I will tell you that this is the magic, if you want to call it that, of your soul. Your soul is an imprint that carries that, which resides in the cave of creation, so that when you arrive on this planet yet again, the things that you've learned are delivered to you so you don't have to relearn them. That's what makes the difference between a young soul and an old soul. Past remembrances of this planet, of those you've loved and lost and may even have again, are there. It's the spark of remembrance when twin flames will rekindle that which they had before, or souls will reunite. It's all there. It's a beautiful, beautiful storage system, and that's just the system of remembrance. But you don't need to die and come back for that. It stores the essence of the ones you've loved and lost. And then you get into the esoterics. If your DNA is part of the soul system, and I've told you before that souls are a group, and that you come in with karmic groups, and those you've loved and lost perhaps are in there, that means that part of them still are living in you. How does that feel to you, to be outlandish information of the day? It isn't outlandish, it's magnificent. And those of you who are tuned into this are going, yes, that explains everything. That explains why they're still with me and I can still feel them. That explains why they're saying, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. That's why I'm starting to feel good again, when they're encouraging joy in my life and all the things that grief doesn't usually supply. And then you get into the more simple things. Simple for some, and yet it is the most available thing, and that is DNA is a receptor of consciousness. And what you create, it passes on and creates for you and with you in your body. Consciousness and DNA together are an engine of creation. And that creation for you, dear ones, is the creation of attitudes. Is it possible that if you awaken every day and give affirmations or feelings of benevolence, or saying, this day let good things only come to me, let me bless somebody today, and in that you're steered to the right place, and the potholes of life, the disappointments of life are over there and you're going this way? You see, because that's what you asked to do. Is it possible that which you think, and that's what you achieve in affirmations, actually creates an energy that steers you out of the way of trouble? I'm going to say it's more than possible. It is the engine of the old soul's life. That's the reality, that you can change your life by how you think. How many of you have gone through this and met the right people that perhaps even saved your life? You think that was just a giant accident? How many of you had benevolent outcomes of so many things, where over and over things would click and come together that you never thought would come together or click? Did you ally that finally to the way you apply yourself to life? That is the reason, dear ones. It's not about rewards and punishment. It never was. It's about free will to use that engine with you that we are studying even here to create a reality that puts you in a spot of love. It's a spot of love. It's a sweet spot where no matter what happens, you could say, thank you for this day. There were some challenges, but I've gotten through them. And in the next days, I'll realize it was okay, and why, and the things that I didn't know one time and past then, and today tomorrow will show themselves, and the next day will show themselves, and I'll look backwards and go, wow, I had no idea what I was doing. How could I have created this beautiful castle out of nothing, just by following intuition and placing this stone here and that stone there and this stone, and moving left or moving right? DNA, the ultimate receptor and transmitter of consciousness, memory, benevolence, kindness, greatness, magnificence, or whatever it is you create in your life. Are you hearing me? How many of you are invested? Don't answer if you don't want to. How many are you invested in making yourself a victim of everything? The earth is against you. Your friends are against you. All the relationships you've had end poorly. And you sit in the corner and woe is me, and you know that earth is not a good place, and that's where you are. What if I told you you created your own box, you sat in your box, you enhanced your box, you verbalized your box, just like a menu you would check off. Here I am, victim, victim, yes, no, this is going to happen, that's not going to happen. And finally, that tally sheet is what happens. Hypochondriacs are afraid of disease, and they catch them all. The ones who go forward, who believe that they have a strong immune system and that they will navigate in that fashion, will not catch the diseases that the other ones do. What does that tell you? What does the study of the placebo effect tell you? Where so many will take the pill that does nothing and have profound healings because they expected it. That's the DNA, everyone, giving you that which you've asked for. That's the power of the receptor, transmitter of what is inside you. We give you a study in these days that is a fraction of what it actually does, but it's a beginning. Perhaps those of you who did not take the course listening to this channel might be interested in the classes of what I have said is inside your DNA. I leave it to you. This message has been for anyone, regardless of the academic knowledge that you wish to have or the esoteric knowledge. It's a channel that says that there's hope in your life. That no matter what you think is happening on this planet, there is no question that the magnificence in your body is assured. And that is a positive, absolute, 100% truth. We care for you. We know your name. Perhaps we're waiting for your hand to come out and grab ours and learn the rest of the story about who you are. And so it is.
The energy of the day, of the weekend, of all the beings that are around us as we do our work here. And we say yes to them and we give thanks. So take a breath into that place inside of us that connects with the outside, with the unseen ones, with the energies of the planet. In co-creation with the divine, with the love of Spirit for us, the work that we do, what we've taken on in this life, the honor of a human life, and the love that is given with us to continue on this journey. We hold the flame of these days in our hearts as we go forward, remembering what we've been given, using what we know of who we are as sacred, radiant, magnificent beings here on the planet at this time. And here we also receive the love and the guidance and the honor and the messages from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. every time the messages begin, there are a few moments of adjustment. The adjustment is for my partner, it is for you, it is for those listening. For truly, the messages are given almost in another dimension. For the human being, it's the dimension of belief. That you could really switch gears and in your mind stop listening to a human and instead listen to a multidimensional message from the other side. And what would I say to you today? Perhaps it's even a little different than before. I start with enamorment for the human. For you pulled it off. A colloquialism that means you really did it. Almost at the last moment, the timing brought you to the end of a cycle. And you did it without another war. You went through it without strife. And yet you really don't know what you've done. You find yourself in a brand new energy. Since 2012, many things are reacting and changing. Not just you. And that's what I want to talk about. Let's start with one of the basics. The crystalline grid of this planet. I have discussed, talked about, channeled. I have told you that it is a remembering grid. I told you that it is one that is active and activated by the emotions and the compassions of human beings. I told you it is a fast-track grid. That is to say, if it changes, then those humans who are placed upon it will feel that change. And up to now, it has had only that which has been negative. Really? Because that is what human nature responds to. If you don't believe me, watch your news. It seems to be what human beings are most attracted to and interested to. The horror, the negativity, the drama. And that is human nature. And that is changing. And so that grid would then respond to that which you respond to. And that's why it is what it is until now. What happens to the crystalline grid of this planet in the new energy? Well, I think I gave you a hint before. Dear ones, it's almost like it was rebooted. And the things which it remembered before, which were negative and dramatic, in the places it remembered them, will start to diminish and disappear. It's almost like the timing created an entire different physics for you, for the planet. It's a fast-track grid. That is to say that you are now imprinting it fresh. When you reboot something, all that was before goes away and it starts again. And dear ones, that is what's going on. Now I started simple. For the crystalline grid is an example, and it's fairly linear, and you can understand it. But then there are those who have asked the esoteric questions about time. Now, if you have not been part of the seminar, it's difficult for you to comprehend the discussion. Only because the seminar gave it, that is to say, it explained it. It gave it credibility, and the knowledge was displayed about the circle of time. Now, the circle of time is not anything that you really feel, because for you it is straight line, past, present, future. But the reality is it's fractalized. It goes in a circle. It really does. And in a certain way, you might say that as things happen, they create bumps on the road so that when you go in the circle again, you feel the bumps, or you see them coming, or you feel that something is going to happen, and that literally often creates the thing happening again. That's fractal time. It's been studied, displayed, there's physics behind it. So what happens to that? What happens to the fractals? What happens to the events on the timeline in the past that might trigger the future? I'm here to tell you something. The whole timeline, all of the fractals, everything is starting to be rebooted. And when they disappear, dear ones, time itself starts to change. And why? Because human consciousness is part of it. If you reboot fractal time, it means that the things in the past will not affect you today or tomorrow in the future like they did in an older energy, where you kept tripping on them and they kept coming around and you had war after war after war, because that was what was expected. And that was human nature. Now, if this is the case, and the timing of things starts to be different, you are writing a new timeline. You're creating new bumps. But the bumps may actually be positive, not negative. Fractals are that way. They're going to react no matter what you do, except that the old ones and the old energy won't be here. You might say you've cleaned it. Controversial. It's controversial in physics. Time is time. No matter what happens, it would tend to be thought and perceived to always be the same. The process is the same, eons of the same, and suddenly I'm saying to you, it's being changed. The catalyst? Consciousness. So let's go one step further. If the fractals are changed, would that affect the reaction of humans about the past? The answer is, oh yes. Suddenly, this may very well be the beginning and the seed planting of peace among their former enemies. And where do you see that on the planet that is so profound? And the answer is the Middle East. Middle Eastern people and civilizations do not expect what I'm telling you. I was in a large theater, and my partner took me there, sitting alone on the stage in the lights with 1,000 Israelis. They were there to hear a message from Kryon. Hopefully about their land or not, they don't know what Kryon's going to say. And I told them. I told them that they were chosen to bring peace on earth. That they were tasked to create peace on earth, and that they were the only ones that could do it. And it would not come from the outside, it would not come from the West, only from them. And the reaction that I got, the consciousness that I could feel, because I know what's being thought, was how? When for eons, this is what we wanted. And since the 40, when permission to return to the land and create it was given, even since then, it just got worse. How? Are you going to turn a magic switch, Kryon, so that suddenly we can have peace in this land? And the answer was, no, they already did it. And they did it in December 21, 2012. And the reset has begun with the perception of the past, because the fractals are gone or being rewritten. And there's going to be children who are going to ask the question, tell me again, Dad, why it is I'm supposed to hate them? I'm not truly getting it. Tell me again, what happened in the past is supposed to do what to me now? Tell me, Dad, why can't we bring it forward into now? Tell me, Father, why we can't wipe away people who are now dead and gone and what they did and start now and look into their eyes and say, let's work it out. And it's going to happen on both sides. And there will be a lot less emphasis on who did what to whom and why and when. And instead, there'll be a consciousness of a clean grid and a start over. And an idea that maybe, just maybe, consciousnesses can come together without the past dictating who hates who. What a concept. This is the catalyst for peace in the Middle East. And it would never have happened if you had not passed this marker. There's more. The light and the dark balance of the planet starting to rearrange itself is going to create more wild cards. Wild cards in the form of human beings making change in ways and in places you don't expect. There's one way overdue in New York City at the United Nations. For it's an old organization with wonderful ideas about helping the planet, but stuck in its politics. What will happen there? If you don't see much, it may actually cease functioning. These are the things that I'm telling you that you don't expect. An organization out to create peace on earth may be dysfunctional and go away. Or a wild card may come and restructure it all under great controversy and almost no funding. That's what wild cards do. You may find it in business, in banking. New ideas never tried before, radical to the max. Expect these kinds of things. But they have to grow on you. So there may be some starts and stops. There may be seed planters who don't make it, and others who will come in after the seeds start growing. That means ideas that are not accepted yesterday that may actually then be accepted later, because as you evolve, you'll see the wisdom in them. This is all part of the growth process through time. This is where you are. You're at the beginning of the growth process. And all this with a new grid, with very, very few fractals to undo, with a clean slate, and a time that has, are you ready? No prophecy at all written about it. Zero. There are no elders anywhere or channelers anywhere at the moment giving you good, solid prophecy about what's next. Because you went through the tunnel of the old energy, the old prophecies. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go read them. Where are you supposed to be right now? And the answer is dead. Where is the earth supposed to be right now? And the answer is radioactive. No one lives here anymore. Goodbye to the planet. The whole idea of a post-apocalyptic earth is fantasy. You don't live here when there's that much radiation. It affects everything in the air and the oceans. The very dust that would have been kicked up by 1,000 nuclear explosions would be circling the planet right now and block the sun. Dark, life gone. That is the apocalypse that never took place. And instead you stand here with your kids and a new planet with hope. You wonder why I'm enamored with all of you. But you don't know it, really, not yet. In a generation or two, somebody will raise their hand and say, I couldn't help but notice. We're different. This is how long it takes, especially to rewrite the old consciousness of expected doom. 2 generations may have to go by before someone raises their hand and say, look, the sun's coming out. It's different. Humans sometimes are a bit stubborn. But now you have a new road to walk on. Some of the very essence of metaphysics is changing. Processes, procedures, how you meditate, how you pray, what it feels like, how long it takes. Expect these things to move, because now you're sitting in a fresh, new energy. I'll tell you this, it isn't fresh enough, because as the earth refreshes itself, even through the weather changes, as I said last week, consciousness has yet to escape the expectation of doom. That's what's next. So you want to know what your task is at the moment, dear old soul, is to encourage those around you. When you hear them talk about the fact that they cannot get ahead, or that things are horrible on the planet, or what the news said last night, in a very loving, positive way, timed correctly, you can say, I'm really not on board with that. I feel we have a positive time ahead. Things are different. Can't you feel it? Can't you see it? I think we've got a bright future. We've got to be patient with it. And that is seed planting. And they may laugh in your face, but the planting of the seed that you have done has a compassionate overview that sticks in their consciousness. It's attractive. They may come back to you and say, why do you feel that way? I remember what you said. I just don't know why you feel that way. Then you can tell them a little more about the precession of the equinoxes, perhaps what the ancients said, a little bit more about the history of the planet that is seemingly unknown in the West. Ask them to do some research, get them going, plant the seeds. Young people will come to you sometimes confused at what their parents have told them about the future. You may be the only one that may say to a young person, it's a lot brighter than they know. They're still kind of in the shadow. I'm sitting in front of 1,000 Israelis on stage alone with my partner. And I told them, I said, in a black and white Israel, color is coming. And the whole idea was foreign to them because it never's been there. It's always been a black and white Israel. And then I told them, it's up to you. And now I'm telling you why these things have a propensity to change in a new energy. And the potential is ripe for that change. Now the timing of it is up to the humans. Did you hear that? Spirit is not in control of free choice. How long will it take is up to them, you, human consciousness, and if you believe this message today, everyone who's hearing it. Are you going to pick it apart, discuss it on YouTube, and comments of how stupid it is? And if you are, and you read that, that's a human being who has not escaped yet the whole idea of doom. And that is what is going to be rewritten first. What do you expect? Dear old soul, I want you to leave this place with those questions in your mind. What do you really expect? And if you expect the sun to come out and the energy to win here in the light, if you expect that which is unexpected in the Middle East, if you can see what the wild cards are doing and not be fearful and worried, if you're in that place, that's the first step to cognizing what really is going to happen here. A new planet, new consciousness, new ways starting to grow up. The end of war. The beginning of something you don't even expect is coming. Color is coming. That's the message. You are having things around you change to support you, and if you didn't figure it out, it's the grid, it's time, it's fractals, maybe even physics itself. As the field starts to come forward and synchronize and harmonize things even more. It's a wonderful message. Do you believe it? Free choice. But old soul, some of you are feeling it. Don't be confused, because your life is not necessarily cooperating with everything I've said. Because the timing of your awakening and change and recalibration is unique to you. Did you hear that? We don't have a group of old souls all taking one pill. Each one of you, so unique, so different, will awaken and evolve at different times for different reasons. Sometimes the synchronicity of what's coming will not allow it yet. And you're jumping up and down saying, how come I don't get it? You'll find out when the train arrives. Then you can get on it. But if you wake up too soon and go to the station, you're going to be frustrated the train isn't there. Let synchronicity work for you, not against you. Be patient with all things. What do you do while you're waiting? Why don't you sit there and say, thank you, God, for loving me? Why don't you accept God within? Why don't you think what is beautiful in your life that you can think about? What kind of positive change can you make while you're waiting? This starts to clean up the fears, the anxiety, and all the things that are not compassionate and beautiful. I have been accused of being the Pollyanna channel. I admit it. I am. Because I know what's coming. I've seen it before. Free choice. You can do with it what you wish. But I've seen it. I know where it's supposed to go. And you're well on your way. But dear ones, you just started. This is the beginning. That's enough for now. What are you going to do with all of this? Some cannot digest what I've said yet. But later you'll realize it, you'll see it, you'll understand it. And others of you get it right now. Again, you're all on different paths. Spirit knows who you are. Spirit knows your name. You're not in the dark. You're not without support. How does that make you feel? From the beginning of the channeling, 28 years ago, I gave you the metaphor, very beginning. I dare you. Climb in the closet, shut the door, turn off a light. Too bad. All the angels that came in with you are still with you. You can't get rid of us. That's the God in you, surrounded by that which you would call the magnificence of the other side of the veil, the higher self, the innate, that you carry around, pretending you're alone. But free choice may keep you alone if you want to be. I am Kryon, in love with humanity.